Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the STEM Digital School. This is Grade 6, Natural Sciences and Technology. So I hope everyone is doing well and that you guys had a good night's rest. Um, Guys, just before we start next, let's quickly go through the rules, class rules. Please keep videos off, right? And when we chat or rather when we use the group chat, let us be respectful towards each other. Okay, no insults, no name calling, and let us also keep the chat to content specific information. All right, so that is information only regarding the lesson. And you guys can raise your hand if you want to ask a question or give me an answer. And we can also use the group chat for such purposes. Okay. Okay, Simran, it's fine. I believe you are forgiven. I see a hand just before we continue. You guys do know, I think we're doing the memo for the assessment or the test that we wrote. So let me just quickly take Pikello's hand and then we will get on with the work. Pikello?
Morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
How are you, ma'am?
I'm well, thanks. Yourself?
I'm good, ma'am.
Awesome. Did you have a question?
No, ma'am, I just wanted to say morning.
Oh, okay. Good morning, Pikello. Thank you very much for that, Pikello. So, guys, Pikello said hello. I see you guys are sending good greetings. Morning, Michael, Jocelyn, Chiasha, Kamahelo, and Nduvo. Okay, so let's continue with the lesson. I see you here. I see you. Okay, so yesterday we did section 1, right, which is the multiple choice question, and we also did question 2. Question 2 is basically on mixtures and separation methods or physical methods of mostly physical methods of separation. Then we went through saturated solutions. Oh, yes. Quick reminder, remember guys, 2.1, we had initially said it's F, but it was, the correct answer was E. Okay, so remember we fixed that part. So if maybe in your corrections you didn't fix it, just fix it again quickly. 2.1 is E and 2.2 is F. Okay. Yes, so then we did, or rather we went through saturated solutions, which I believe now we all understand. And we also looked at question 3, the iodine solution, which is question 3.1. 3.2 was ecosystem. 3.3 was decomposers. 3.4 was food web. And 3.5 was mixture. Right. And then question 4, I think this is, yeah, we stopped at question 4 and we said carbohydrates are for building. Okay, we said that is false, right? 4.2 was true. 4.3 was also true. 4.4 was false. 4.5 was also false. Okay, section B, question 5, explain the process of photosynthesis. Explain the process of photosynthesis. Yes, Kia.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Kia. How are you?
I'm fine, and how are you, ma'am?
I'm well, thanks.
Okay, the process of photosynthesis is a process where plants make their own food with the help of water, sunlight, and carbon dioxide. And during that process, they make chlorophyll, and they also make oxygen.
Okay, all right, cool, beautiful. So the question was out of 5, now. Was 5 marks,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
what you mentioned there, you actually did mention more than 5 points. Thank you very much for that, Kia.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Awesome. Okay, let's hear Michael. Okay, Michael put his hand down.
Sorry, ma'am. Ma'am, it was a mistake.
Oh, okay, you don't want to share? Oh, okay. All right, so let's hear together.
Ma'am?
Yeah, boy.
Ma'am, photosynthesis is a life process of sunlight, oxygen, soil, water, and carbon dioxide.
Can you just repeat that for me again?
Ma'am,
Can you
photosynthesis
yes.
photosynthesis contains of oxygen,
Mm-hmm.
water, soil,
Mm-hmm.
sunlight, and carbon dioxide.
Okay, so what you just read right now, Tikal, you said photosynthesis contains, right? So remember,
Yes, ma'am.
photosynthesis is a process which plants undergo. So what you should have said was, photosynthesis is a process where plants use the sunlight, the water, as well as the carbon dioxide. All right.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
you should just change your wording there and say that the plants use these things during photosynthesis. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Okay, let's hear Mashora's answer.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi, Mashora.
How are you, ma'am?
I'm well, thanks. Yourself?
I'm good. So,
Awesome.
ma'am, first the plant uses chlorophyll,
Okay.
sunlight energy
Can I
to
stop you
make
there?
starch with glucose,
Just pause a
water,
bit,
carbon
Mashore.
dioxide.
Mashore. Oh, thank you. Cool. So first part you said, first the plant uses chlorophyll. Where is this chlorophyll found?
Ma'am, it's found on the leaves, ma'am. It's what makes
Okay.
leaves green.
All right, beautiful. Okay, you can continue.
So, ma'am, first the plant uses chlorophyll and sunlight energy to make starch with glucose, water, carbon dioxide, and minerals. It takes in the carbon dioxide and water and makes starch, which it stores in its leaves, fruits, and roots. Then it gives oxygen.
All right, beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you very much. That would be a 5 out of 5 for you, Mashore. Okay, so I'm going to take the
Thank you,
last
ma'am.
hand. Awesome. So I'm going to take the last hand and then reveal the answer, okay, or how you guys are supposed to answer this question. Yes, Piwa?
Okay, ma'am,
Yes.
my answer was it is the process by which plants make food. All green plants contain a substance called chlorophyll. Chlorophyll gives the leaves and other parts of the plant their color. Plants take in gas that's called carbon dioxide from the air through their leaves.
All right, beautiful. Thank you very much, Piwa. Thank you
ma'am.
for that answer. Okay, awesome. So we are going to look at how we're supposed to answer this question. So here's my answer. Next. Firstly, remember I said the question was out of 5. It says explain the process of photosynthesis. Firstly, photosynthesis is the process that plants use to change energy from the sun into food. Okay, so if you mentioned the type of food that the plant makes, which is either starch or glucose, then you would get a mark. But the main thing for your first mark is to talk about the energy from the sun. So if you spoke about the energy from the sun, then you would get 1 mark. Then for the second mark, we said plants change light energy from the sun into food, energy, glucose, starch. Okay, so if you mentioned either or, if you said food energy or food, glucose or starch, then you would get your second mark. Okay, and then the third mark came through when you mentioned chlorophyll. Right, so the chlorophyll in the leaves of the plant which capture the sunlight's energy. So if you mention chlorophyll, you get your third mark. Then your fourth mark would come from mentioning the roots. Okay, not necessarily roots, but like mentioning that the water is absorbed via the roots. So if you spoke about the plant using water during photosynthesis, then you would get your fourth mark. And then your fifth mark would come where you mentioned that carbon dioxide is also used. Okay, So if you mention that the plant also requires carbon dioxide from the air in order to continue the process of photosynthesis, then you would get your 5th mark. Right, so that is where your 5 marks came from, mentioning the sun, excuse me, mentioning the sun or sunlight's energy, mentioning the type of food, right, which is either food energy, glucose or starch, mentioning chlorophyll, mentioning water, and also mentioning carbon dioxide. And guys, remember, it's not just mention them, you need to explain them properly, okay? So I see we have a lot of messages in the group chat. Let me just quickly read to you guys what Tokello said. I think Tokello thought that he had sent this in the group, it was public, but it was sent to me. So Tokello's message to you guys, it comes from a good place. Tokello says, good morning, guys. Please, I ask that we respect our teachers and the classes. We respect this platform since some of us needed to know and understand our schoolwork. Respect and appreciation goes a long way. Okay. So he is asking deep down, from deep down in his heart, that we respect this platform because this is the only way for him to also attend school. And I believe for some of you guys, right, to not spoil this. Okay, thank you very much, Tokello, for that wonderful message. Okay, let's see. Simran says photosynthesis is where plants make their food process, right, Simran? It's a process, okay, with the help of water, sunlight. Simran, don't write etc. Mention, explain. Okay, remember this question was 5 marks, so you do need to explain. And in the process, they produce glucose and oxygen. Okay, that is also correct. Let's see. Jocelyn is asking, ma'am, were we supposed to explain photosynthesis? Yes. So you were supposed to explain the process. They store starch in the roots, leaves, stems, and seeds or fruits. That's Adeline. That is correct, Adeline. Yeah. All right. I think I have read through all the messages rather, which are in the group. Okay, next question. Please see what I'll give you this one. Yeah, you're gonna answer the next question. I think it's question 6. Oh, here we just have a summary of photosynthesis, guys. So I think you guys would remember this picture from our revision class, where we showed this picture talking about the light energy, the carbon dioxide, the oxygen which is released, and the water which is absorbed. All right. Question 6, list 3 reasons for processing food. Please see where you can enlighten us with the answer for question 6. There we go.
Hello.
Hi, please see where.
I was going to say the answer for question 5.
You
But
can
we
also
have
give us the
finished
answer
it.
for question 2.
We need processing food so we can eat. The first reason.
Okay. That's the reason to
And the
eat.
third reason is and to
Think about the food. Think about the food that's processed. Okay. Do you eat canned beans?
yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
okay. So if at home they bought a can of beans, how long do they last at home?
They last long.
They last long. Okay. And remember, canned beans are also processed.
Oh, so the second reason for processing food is so it can last longer
All right.
for its
Beautiful.
value.
Okay, so it can last longer. And then third reason.
To improve and so it can improve its nutrients and value.
Beautiful. So to improve the nutritional value. Thank you very much, please, Siwe.
Yes.
Okay. Let's hear Michael. What are your reasons?
Ma'am, we improve food so to make it last longer, to make it
Okay.
edible and ready to eat, and to
Okay.
improve its nutrients value.
Beautiful. Thank you very much for that answer, Michael. And then we're gonna take, yeah, that's the next hand that I'm seeing.
Yes, ma'am. The three reasons of processing food is first to make it to make it to make it to make it not rot, to preserve the
Okay.
food, to
Right.
cook the food in order for the nutrients to get more, in order for you to enjoy the food when you eat, and
Okay.
also to stop them from rotting.
Okay, you mentioned rotting twice, so you only have 2 points now. I'm waiting for the third one. So you mentioned nutritional value and to also make the food not to rot. What's the third reason?
Mm,
So remember, if you say in order for the food not to rot, that is the same thing as to say to preserve the food. Because when you preserve it, you are impeding it from rot. Okay,
yes, ma'am.
last one, last one, last one.
The last one is for the it's to eliminate all the dirt on it.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you very much for that, Kia. That's, okay, so the remaining hands, I will take them for the next questions. Ne? If you guys do have a question, or like you raise your hand because you have a question, and then you can just type it in the group for me, and then I'll take your hand. Okay. Right. So you guys just needed to list 3 reasons, and question 6 is also 3 marks. So first reason that I have here is to make it eatable. Second reason, to make them last longer. Third reason, to improve its nutrient value. Okay, then the fourth reason is to extend the availability of the food. Okay, so an example is if we have if we have processed oranges, we know that most of the time we only get oranges during winter, but if it's processed, then we can also get them during summer, during spring, etc. Okay, and then my last reason was buying and preparing processed food is also more convenient and less time consuming. All right, so instead of having to peel, to start from the beginning where you actually go to the garden, take out the fruit or the vegetable, to peel it, to chop it, and all that. Okay, so those are rather a few of the reasons as to why we process food. Okay, so I'm just gonna quickly go to the group chat. I see we have a lot of messages. Mashava is asking if you wrote what you need for photosynthesis. Okay, Mashava, you had to explain why you need those things. Okay, so not just list the things that you need, but also explain why they are needed, so that you would actually say there that the plant needs carbon dioxide in order for photosynthesis to take place. And let's see, privilege added to stop it from rotting. Mashava, to make the food taste better and last longer. Beautiful. Then Jocelyn. Okay. All right, thank you very much for that addition, Jocelyn. So on your question, you'd get 4 marks. You'd get 4 marks, Jocelyn. That was for question 5. And then Simran, answering question 6, is to preserve the food, cook the food in order to eat it. Okay. All right. Okay. Adeline, for question 6, you don't give us the methods of processing. You give us the reasons why those methods are there. Okay. And then I see your reason, Mashava. I see you, Michael. I see privilege, taste better, last longer. Nomatemba, make it ready to eat. Okay. Okay, Adeline, I did answer you. Then Kia gave us an example of processed food, which is bacon, right? And then Jocelyn improved its taste. Okay, Triasha, excuse me, Triasha just added that so that it does not get bacteria. Okay, okay. Okay, yeah, there we go. And then Kamahelo also added to stop harmful organisms, all right? That is also the reason why we process food. Then I see you guys are mentioning types of processed foods, chips, fermented milk. Okay, I see you, I see you. So yeah, guys, question 6 is 3 marks, yeah? Wow, you guys are participating today. Hello, good morning. Seems like we're not in bed today. That's good. Question 7. Okay, so the following picture shows how the different phases of matter are related to each other. Ooh, I kind of, oh, there we go. It also shows what the different state changes are called. So in the first in the first picture we have the gas, right? And then we have the liquid, and we also have the solid. And we can already see from this that, or rather we can see the particles, the arrangement of the particles, all right? And we are being told that when the liquid moves to the gas is called evaporation. When the gas goes to the liquid, it's called condensation. Guys, this is the memo. Like imagine having the memo when writing the test. And then you have the solid turning to the liquid, which is called melting. The liquid turning to a solid is called freezing. Okay. Okay, question 7.1. Explain the arrangement of particles in a solid. Let's see the hands. Explain the arrangement of particles in a solid. I'm just going to check for someone who hasn't answered me. Nomatemba. I haven't heard from Nomatemba this morning. Nomatemba?
Ma'am, they are all linked together.
Okay, so they are all linked together. So remember, question 7.1 was 2 marks, né? So you had to mention 2 things. What else?
I don't know the other one.
You don't know the other one. Okay, no problem. Thank you very much for sharing. And yeah, I think I put your hand down there by mistake. Ne? Just raise it up for me again. Adeline, give us explain the arrangement of particles in a solid. 2 marks.
Hello.
Hi, Adeline.
They are tied together.
Okay,
and they cannot
together.
move. And they cannot move. That's why they have a fixed shape, solids.
Okay, so they cannot move, and that is why they have a fixed shape. All right, beautiful. Okay, so let's see the answer for 7.1. It was 2 marks. Particles in a solid are packed tightly together, just as Nomatemba mentioned and Adeline also mentioned. And then secondly, particles in a solid have a fixed position. They cannot move from their positions. So you also had to mention that they cannot move, all right, and that they are packed tightly together or linked tightly together, as long as it was something around these particles being together. And guys, now you didn't have to think very hard for this question, because here's the solid, here are the particles, and you can immediately see from the picture what's going on. See, so Triasha mentioned that they also vibrate. Yes, they do vibrate, and you're supposed to add that they vibrate in a fixed position. Okay, so the vibrations do not move, all right? Doesn't cause the particles to move around. It's in that particular position that they are in, right? Oh, guys, why are you guys saying please me? What's going on? All right. Okay. There we go. And then we have 7.2, and unfortunately I already gave you the first one. Explain the arrangement of particles in a gas. Explain the arrangement of particles in a gas. I haven't had from who? Duvo?
Ma'am, the particles in a gas flow and completely fill their container.
Okay, so the particles in the gas flow and they completely fill up the container. All right, beautiful. Thank you very much for that, Duvo. Awesome. Do you have any additions in the group? Nomatemba says the particles in a gas move in all directions. All right. Okay, Sukelo, I see. There we go. So the next reason, or rather the next point that you had to write for your second mark was to say that they can move freely. Okay, so the particles in a gas, they are far apart and they can move freely. And so if you guys said anything along these lines, then you would be, you'd be getting your full marks there. Then 7.3, compare the different states of matter, complete the table below. Okay, so question 7.3, the table, ne? It was 4 marks, right? And the first process was evaporation. So the thing is, if I make the table appear here, it's gonna appear with the answers. So I'll just take hands and ask you guys to explain the processes that you were supposed to answer in 7.3. No, guys, are you saying me, please, because you want to answer? Oh my goodness, I love this, I love this, I love this. I love your energy, guys. Okay, so I'm just gonna start from the top. Hand is at the top and then we're gonna go down the list.
Ma'am?
Okay.
Ma'am?
So, I hope I was not. Okay. Hello?
Ma'am?
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you.
All right, perfect. Explain the process of evaporation.
Ma'am, evaporation, it starts all over from gas, which can also be called steam. And then when that steam is turned into a liquid, and then that liquid is frozen, and then it turns into a solid. So first the steam has particles just floating around, and then the liquid has a bit of packed particles, and then the solid. Yes, ma'am.
Let's start again. Explain the process of evaporation. Now you have the picture in front of you, as you did when you were writing the test, and it's asking you, explain evaporation. When you go back to the picture, you see here's the liquid, there's the gas,
Yes.
and they're telling you evaporation is when it turns from a, look at the arrow.
Evaporation is when it's gas, and then after that.
No, look at the picture, look at the picture.
Yes, ma'am.
What does the picture say? The arrow tells you that evaporation is when it goes from a liquid to
a gas, ma'am.
Beautiful. Then you can start explaining how it goes from a liquid to a gas.
Okay, ma'am. So, ma'am, how does a gas turn into a liquid? First, the reason how a gas turns into a liquid, for example, steam. Steam, when it stays on the wall, there's a bit of droplets which come down, and then you freeze that water, and you freeze that water, and then after that, it's gonna turn into a solid, and then if you melt it, it's gonna turn into a liquid.
Okay, so Tukelo, you read your questions correctly, so I'm going to help you here. Question 7.3 said, compare the different states of matter and then complete the following table. Then 7.3.1 said, you are actually explaining the process of evaporation. So at 7.3.1, you are only answering with regards to evaporation, and you're going to use this picture that we had. Okay, and we can see that evaporation here by this arrow is indicating to us that it is when a liquid changes to a gas. And what you were supposed to say there was that evaporation is when a liquid changes to a gas because the particles were heated. Okay. So remember, just think about boiling water, right? So when you boil water, right, it's a liquid. So as it's boiling, some of the water ends up being what? Steam. Okay, and that is evaporation. Okay, because these water particles gained a lot of energy and now they are in a gas form. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, beautiful. Then let us move to Michael. Explain to me the process of melting.
When a solid becomes water, a liquid.
Okay, so when a solid becomes a liquid, so what needs to happen in order for a solid to become a liquid?
The solid needs to melt to become a liquid.
Okay, that is melting, but in order for these solids to melt, what do they need?
Heat.
They need heat. Okay, so if we're saying that solids need heat, okay, that is actually correct. We need to heat the solid in order for them to turn into a liquid. An example that we can think of is ice, right? If we take out an ice cube from the freezer, we put it in the sun gives it heat and it turns to a liquid. Beautiful. Thank you very much, Michael.
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Triasha, explain to us the process of freezing.
The process of freezing is when you put it in a deep freeze, and then when you freeze it, a liquid becomes a solid.
Okay, so you put it in a deep freeze and a liquid becomes a solid. So you mentioned that a liquid becomes a solid. And then in order for a liquid to become a solid, what do we need to do?
You need to freeze it.
We need to freeze it. Okay,
Yeah.
so the correct term to use there is that you need to cool it. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Triasha. And then the last one that we have is condensation, and it goes to PC way.
Hello.
Hi, please.
Condensation when gas becomes clouds.
When gas becomes clouds. Okay, so according to the picture that we have here, what is condensation?
When a gas becomes water.
Okay,
Liquid.
so yes, when a gas becomes a liquid, and in order for a gas to become a liquid, what do we need to do to the particles?
We need
Are we heating it or are we cooling it?
reheating it.
Okay, so remember when we add heat to particles, they gain more energy and they move faster. So particles of a gas compared to particles of a, yes, beautiful. So we would need to cool it. All right, thank you very much, PDC. Guys, I hope you won't forget this. I hope you guys will not forget what we are doing here, because I believe we are repeating. So this is what you guys had to say. 7.3.1, evaporation is when a liquid turns to a gas by adding heat to it. So by it, I mean the particles, all right? Then 7.3, melting is when a solid turns to be a liquid by adding heat to the particles. Then 7.3.3, freezing is when a liquid turns to be a solid by cooling the particles. Then condensation is when a gas tends to be a liquid by also cooling the particles. All right, so that is how you got your answers. In this case, guys, it was half a mark for mentioning that the liquid turns to a gas, and also by mentioning whether we are adding heat or we are cooling the particles. All right, so this question was 4 marks. All right, so you had to mention what's When we're talking about melting, this is when a solid turns to be a liquid and we add heat to the particles. Okay, yes, so let's just go through this again. Arrangement of particles, this is what we had already covered in class. Right? So during our revision lecture, or rather lesson, sorry, particles in a solid, we said particles in a solid are packed tightly together. Particles in a solid have fixed positions and they cannot move from their positions. And we showed the particles in a solid. Then we spoke about the particles in a liquid. Said particles in the liquid are also very close together. The particles in the liquid do not have a fixed position and they are always moving around. And there we have our particles in a liquid. Then we spoke about the particles of a gas. We said that they are far apart and they are also moving freely. And we showed you guys the gas particles right there. Okay, and this is change of state. When we have a solid to a liquid, we need to heat it, and we call the process melting. Then liquid to a gas, we also need to heat it, and that is called evaporation. And then a gas moving to a liquid, that is called, or rather we need to cool it, and it is called condensing or condensation. Then liquid to a solid is also cooling, and the process is either called freezing or solidifying. Okay, so you guys also did this in grade 4 and 5. All right. Okay, guys, so can I move on, or do you guys need to write this down? You can just yes, no, no, yes, memory. Yeah, I see yes. All right, cool. Okay, I'll just wait a minute, and then those of us that need to take it down, will take it down. Those of us that are good, then we'll be good. We'll be better, actually, because we're gonna have an opportunity to reread the information again. Okay, can I move on? All right, beautiful. Okay, then I have question 8. Describe 3 things you could do to increase the rate at which sugar dissolves in water. Describe 3 things you could do to increase the rate at which sugar dissolves in water. And let's see hands. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. 3 things you should increase for the rate which the sugar dissolves in water is rate of stirring, grain size, and rate of stirring and temperature.
Okay, but we're asking for 3 things, no? 3 things.
And grain size or adding hot water.
Okay, grain size, rate of stirring, and also hot water. All right, beautiful. Thank you very much for that, Kia. Okay, so let's see in the group we have privilege says adding hot water. Michael?
Ma'am, it's the grain size, the temperature, and the rate of steering.
All right, beautiful. Okay, thank you very much, Michael. Kia has something to share with us here. He says, ma'am, this is what I learned. When you heat something up, it makes molecules move faster, and that is correct. And when we speak about these molecules, these are the particles. Okay, It makes molecules move faster. When this happens, all of the molecules go flying apart and become a gas. And that is correct here. So if you have a solid and you heat up the solid, then the particles will move faster and become a liquid. And if you continue to add heat to that liquid, then that liquid will turn into a gas, right? So beautiful. Thank you very much for sharing that wonderful piece of information here. Then we have Kamohelo saying the grain size. Okay, what about the grain size, Kamohelo? Do we use big size grains or smaller ones? And then she actually says temperature, size, and the rate of stirring. Okay, guys, if you're gonna mention grain size, you must say we should use fine sugar or huge grains of sugar, you know. Because remember, question 8 is describe 3 things you could do to increase the rate at which sugar dissolves in water. We're not talking about all right, and then we have Simran who says use hot water. Okay, so let's see my reasons that we did when we're looking at the rate of dissolving. Firstly, we said that the temperature of the solution, right? So we need to increase the temperature of the solution. So if you mentioned anything about increasing temperature of the solution using hot water, then yes, you would get your first mark. Then the second mark, you need to say that you need to stir or shake your solution. And if you mentioned anything about shaking or stirring, then you would get your second mark. And then thirdly, if you mentioned that you should use a small grain size of the sugar, then you would also get your mark. Okay, so these 3 things are what we learned when we're looking at the rate of dissolving. Okay. Right, beautiful. Okay, Trish, I hope from today on you will not forget it. It will stay in your head. Even when they ask you about this at 12 midnight, you'll be able to answer. All right, let's look at question 9. Describe 2 ways in which municipal water is cleaned before we use it. Describe 2 ways as to how municipal water is cleaned before we use it. Mashore? Ooh, okay. Mashore seems to come to you there.
Ma'am, so first they are put onto a metal screen that captures all the dirt, and then it is filtered.
Okay, so it is put on the metal screen and it is filtered. Okay, so the first method you mentioned is filtering. Then what's the other method? Is Makara still on? Ooh, looks like we lost Makara there. Kulisiwe, talk to me.
The first reason for the municipality water is clean before we use it is so we can drink it when
Okay,
it is
wait,
clean.
wait. It says describe 2 ways. So when you're talking about 2 ways, we want the methods that the municipality uses to clean the water. Okay. Okay, so what are the 2 ways? How do you think water is cleaned? Okay, let's ask the class to help you. All right, Michael, how do you see it? 2 ways in which the municipality, cleans water. Oh, Michael, you disappeared now. Here, assist us.
Thank you, ma'am. 2 ways which municipal water is cleaned before we use it is that first the people who clean water, they use chemicals such as chlorine to take out all the germs and bacteria that could harm us, and they also filter the water.
Okay, so you mentioned chlorination and filtering. Perfect. Thank you very much, Tia.
Thank you, ma'am.
Awesome. So guys, here are the two ways which I described. I said it is filtered to remove undissolved solids, and then the next way that I described is the chemicals which are used, like chlorine, to kill any germs. So question 9 was 4 marks. You had to mention the method and what that method is used for. So for the first one, I said filtration, and it is used for undissolved solids. And the second one is the chemical substances, which is used for the germs. So I see most of you guys mentioned chemicals. I see you guys, I saw your answers. Privilege said chemical, okay, and then you just had to add on why they're using the chemicals. All right, Adeline, I see that. And then Privilege even gave an example like chlorine, and that is correct. Okay, so seems like time is up. So we'll just leave it here at question 9.1. Then tomorrow, guys, it is Friday and it is Kahoot Friday. So we are playing Kahoot. We'll just wrap up with question 9 and continue with Kahoot. Remember, oh yeah, and also this Smalayana or other bit of explanation. But guys, remember, if you do need any textbooks, you can go on Snaplify and you can get yourself the Fire Africa textbook, or you can go to www.thunderboltkids.co.za to get your Siavila textbook. And if you do have any questions, you can email the school or you can drop me an email. Guys, have a wonderful, wonderful day and enjoy the rest of your lessons. Bye, guys.